Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Friday night update. We have breaking week of news for you. Publicly traded company Roadrunner Transportation has been engaged in a huge corporate scandal. From 2013 to 2017, Roadrunner Transportation Systems engaged in a multi-year accounting fraud scheme aimed at inflating prior earnings and analyst projections. They materially misstated their financial results in earnings releases, earnings calls, and quarterly and annual reports from at least the second quarter of 2013 through the third quarter of 2016. Roadrunner avoided writing off numerous worthless assets and uncollectible receivables, intending to defer these write-offs to future periods to minimize their impact on net earnings. However, these adjustments were not made in the preceding periods, and in the fourth quarter of 2015, the company manipulated earn-out liabilities related to acquisitions, creating an income cushion to offset future expenses. Roadrunner did not properly reduce an operating company's earn-out revenue, even after the operating company lost one of its largest customers and would not collect a receivable from the customer. Roadrunner failed to write off the $986,000 receivable, failed to reduce the earn-out liability to zero, and reduced only a small portion of it, preserving the remainder to bolster its earning numbers in the future quarters. Roadrunner also hid the customer loss from their independent auditor, rendering from 2015 Form 10-K materially misleading as a result of the improper deferral of expenses combined with the improper deferral of claims identified above. Roadrunner's quarter four operating expenses were understated by approximately $1.48 million, and the fraudulent manipulation of earnouts led to Roadrunner overstating disclosed contingent earnout liabilities by approximately $1.8 million. While the adjustments to the earnouts were understated by the corresponding amount, the combination of improper deferrals of expenses and earnout manipulation allowed Roadrunner to hit its earnings per share targets in subsequent quarters. And today, after this short commercial break, we will have the company's auditor, Deloitte, and the CFO, Mr. Peter Armbruster, to talk about the details of the subject.
Are you in need of a long-distance shipping solution? Let me introduce Roadrunner Transportation. We offer high-quality services for freight of all shapes and sizes. Roadrunner guarantees to get your freight to your desired destination on time and damage-free. We're an honest business who prioritize our customers and our shareholders first. Take it from me, CFO Peter Armbruster, the most trustworthy person you'll ever meet. Roadrunner Transportation. We compensate so you don't have to.
Well, folks, I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure how that ad got in there, but first we have CFO of Roadrunner Transportation here, Mr. Peter Armbruster, to answer some questions. Hello, Mr. Armbruster.
Hi, how's it going?
So, how long has this scandal gone on?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Aren't you under investigation for fraud regarding your company?
Not that I know of.
Well, evidence shows that in 2014, you failed to write off useless assets, and that resulted in your operating income being overstated by over $4.5 million, and net earnings being overstated by $2.8 million. Are you aware that your fraudulent actions lost investors over $245 million?
Where are you getting these numbers? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm an honest guy. I'm the CFO of the company. I have a good reputation.
We have evidence from an internal audit conducted that suggests you use sham accounting entries, misstated accounts, and other means to conceal millions of dollars of bad debts and other financial problems from Roadrunner shareholders.
Sham accounting entries? What do you think? This is bullshit. I don't have time for this. What do you...
Security! I'm sorry about that, folks, but currently we do have members of our security team chasing after Mr. Armbruster, but the show must go on. So here, I am here to introduce a Deloitte partner, Miss Emma Stone, to answer some questions. How could you have let this go on? Detail how the fraud took place across multiple years and how a company like Deloitte should have put more emphasis into the valuation of accounts and should have detected the high risk of fraud.
We're Deloitte. We don't do anything wrong.
Well, Roadrunner Transportation overstated its earnout liabilities by $1.8 million in 2015, and this led to an inflated income cushion for subsequent quarters that potentially offset their expenses.
Well, they didn't tell us, so what were we supposed to do?
Well, the auditors of Roadrunner Transportation should have detected this financial manipulation by adhering to the PCAOB standards AS 2501, AS 2810, and AS 2801. AS 2501 is the standard for auditing accounting estimates such as provisions and reserves. Particularly, the auditor should have focused on significant accounts like the earnout liabilities estimate. Engaging with management, the auditor should have understood the process behind developing the earnout liabilities estimate. And many in the profession believe this calls for a standard change so that companies like yourself will actually follow them. You are charged with one count of conspiracy to make false statements to a public company's accounts, and one count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud and wire fraud. The court finds you guilty and you are sentenced to 24 months in prison.
Well, I got busted. You're probably wondering how I did it. You know, I got away with this fraud for about 4 years, and the auditors didn't catch a thing. If I had a suggestion to catching me earlier, I would have changed a certain standard. That would be AS 2401. Certain things I would have changed about it would be if there was high fraud risk to assign a component auditor to our company, because they probably would have caught what I was doing, but they didn't. Another thing, if there's high fraud risk, I'd say obtain external evidence for all like high risk accounts, because I fabricated every piece of evidence that I gave them. And finally, if to put the icing on the cake, I'd say bring in a CFE, because they certainly would have caught what I was doing wrong. But good thing Deloitte's a lazy company.
And now for the segment where we bring in an expert in the field to hear his opinion. Friday Night Update presents Steve Alt, renowned day trader and investor, to give his opinion and to see what it looks like from an investor's point of view.
Hi, I'm Steve Alt. I was a investor in Roadrunner Transportation along with several other firms, and I've agreed to do a short interview.
So Steve, as an investor, why do you care about financial statement fraud?
Financial statement fraud to me is an unknown risk that reduces overall my returns on investing, and I feel that if it's not caught, then there's a lot of companies out there that will pay a penalty that are providing great financial statements. Overall, it'll increase the required rate of return for unknown risk that's systematic.
So you talked about your overall returns. What impact did this fraud impact your Roadrunner investment?
Well, I'm still investing. I'm still working, and I had hoped to retire when I was 58. I'm not leaving nearly as much in terms of transfer wealth to my children. I'm not involved in community not-for-profit organizations like I would have liked to have been. So it's been a big hit.
As an investor, do you look for fraud in the financial statements when you read them, or is that something that you expect the auditors to catch?
You know, other than maybe looking to see who's on the board of directors and how often it changes, I'm really looking to the auditors to catch fraud, although I know with any organization, if there are a number of people involved, that can be hard to catch. I am aware, most of the companies I invest in, I review media industry trade reports outside the financial statements, and if I see something that seems to be detrimental or some negative press regarding a company, I might take that into account, that I wonder a little bit about financial reporting.
Okay, thank you. That's all we have for you.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for joining us in today's episode of Friday Night Update. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.